Hang tight. Got to make an edit here. All right.
The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chesko.
Yo, Bill Furman. Let's see. Are you there, Bill?
I am.
Well, how about that? Say hello to everybody.
Hey, welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable. It is Wednesday, October the 2nd, 2024. Hey, Chet, the Eagles laid a big old egg down there in Tampa Bay this week. We'll talk about that. Lots of excuses, lots of talk going on there. The Phillies better figure out how to adjust their game. We'll talk about that. The baseball playoffs are well on their way and looking good. We're going to talk a little media day with the Sixers today. We're going to mix in a little Flyers by the end. We're going to make our picks. But on top of that, Chet, first of all, I want to send a shout out to all the people in western Gulf Coast of Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, who were hit by this hurricane. I can tell you, having a son that is in the middle of that up in Nashville, Tennessee, I've been there throughout. It is very trying on your patience. It's been quite a week with everything going on there. We can only hope for better. Going to cost a lot of money and take a lot of time.
Yeah, and we do have so much to talk about. Plus, we have to talk about the passing the other day of two Phillies sports greats, Dikembe Mutombo and Pete Rose. We will talk about those guys and their legacy. But we're going to talk Phillies and the Eagles first, Bill, with one of our favorite guests. Let's get right into it. Come on, let's do this.
Let's do it. Let's welcome. You know what, Chad? I took a nap earlier today because
did you oversleep? Because you were a little late getting on the show here.
I am a little late. But I know I needed an extra nap because the energy that this guy's going to bring gets me fired up. So let's welcome WIP's High Hopes podcast, James Seltzer, back to Philly Pressbox Radio. James, we're fellas.
Yes, go. Always. Yeah, I'm the king of the nap, Bill. I naps have become a major part of my life. I'm napping.
Children will do that to you.
Well, not just the morning show is what did it to me. It's I nap every day, so a bit, and I never ever napped before. So big proponent of naps. I
worked a 4 a.m. to 11 a.m. shift for quite a while over the years, and I don't miss that at all, James.
Yeah, it's not the most fun. It's early, but you're done early, so you take.
But even so, you always have it turned up to 11. So let's tip it off, man. So much to talk with you about, James. We're going to start with Red October, of course. We don't know yet whether it's going to be the Brewers or Mets coming to Citizens Bank Park this Saturday afternoon to open the NLDS. Which is the better matchup for the Phillies in your view, James? Who do you want to see coming into Philly?
Well, I think everyone wants to see the Brewers. I don't think you'll find anyone who doesn't. I think, Jack, my co-host on the IOPS podcast, is absolutely terrified of the Mets. I'm not going to say I'm terrified of the Mets, but I do think the Mets have, kind of that hot vibe. We just saw the Tigers go from 10 games under in August or whatever, and they just beat the Astros in 2 straight games in Houston. Baseball's weird like that, where you got this 162 games to, really evaluate it. And at the end of the day, it's a 3-game series, a 5-game series, and a team that's just smoking hot, that comes in believing in themselves, that's, pitchers pitch well, and all of a sudden that the whole season is just over like that. There's no other sport where I feel like it's such a massive sample size to choose who the best teams are, and then complete and total chaos to actually win a championship. So I think I'd rather see the Brewers. I think every Phillies fan would rather see the Brewers, just because they're less kind of, on a magic carpet ride than the Mets are right now. And look, let's be honest. We know that, whatever the number is, there'll be more Mets fans at Citizens Bank Park than Brewers fans. And no one wants to see Mets fans at Citizens Bank Park in the playoffs. No matter how much we try, they'll find a way in there. It'll be annoying. So, now there is the flip side that, I'm a big believer that sports are supposed to be fun. We don't really win enough for them to be as fun as they should be, but sports are supposed to be fun, and Phillies Mets is fun, man. That's a fun vibe. It's rivals. We've never played them in the playoffs before. So I would rather see the Brewers, because ultimately at the end of the day, I think we all know this season is all about winning a World Series title, and anything less than that's just going to feel hollow. We might not be like they failed if they don't win the World Series, depending on how things play out, if they lose in the series against a good team or whatever. But it's all we'll all feel like this season wasn't what it was supposed to be if they can't get it done. So I'll take the easiest path, but I they should beat either of these teams, and it'd be fun to play the Mets. So I'm okay. I think it's going to be the Mets, though, for what it's worth. I think the Mets are going to beat the Brewers. So,
hey, James, yesterday, day 1 of the 4 championship game or first games, 21 runs scored among the 4 games, 12 scored in one of those games. So the other 3 games, 9 runs total. I am a proponent anyway. Playoff baseball is about pitching, defense, small ball, manufacturing runs. Coming up bombing, thinking you're going to hit bombs every night isn't going to happen, or doesn't usually happen. That worries me a little bit about the Phillies' approach. Too many strikeouts, not enough balls in play.
Well, I definitely agree with too many strikeouts, not enough balls in play with this lineup. I think I think that we go too far with the small ball thing. I do think you have to hit home runs to win. I mean, if you look at the numbers, the team that wins the World Series every year is usually the team that hits the most home runs in the postseason. Usually one of the teams that hits the most home runs in baseball that year. I mean, the Rangers last year, we just saw it. They won the World Series by hitting home runs, flat out, no other way to say it. They hit a ton of home runs and they won the World Series. So, I'm with you. I think the strikeouts are a major, major issue with this team, especially we saw it the last week of the season, them kind of reverting to the chasing and striking out all the time. So, I am with you. I think they need to. I think that we go too far with these extremes. I think what it is both. Is you need some home runs and you need some small ball. You need to be able to do both things. The big issue is this Phillies lineup, more than most I've seen, has a propensity for all of them to just go ice cold at the same time. And to your point, I think what we're really trying to say is they need to have an approach at the plate. Game to game, they need to go in and they need to not chase, and they need to be smart about their bats and attack pitchers and, use up starters and get to bullpens consistently and all that type of stuff, where that comes with small ball, that comes with home runs. That all comes from a good plate approach. I think the thing that's killed them the last few years is all of a sudden they, whether it's because they hit home runs and they're trying to knock it out of the park, that might be part of it for sure, or they just kind of start feeling the moment and chase or whatever. They've lost their approach at the plate the last 2 postseasons. So I think the small ball, the home runs, it's all a product of them just going up and having good at bats, and good things will come.
James, if there was an announcement to this effect, I haven't heard it. Who's the game 2 starter, Nola or Sanchez?
No announcement yet. And I think it's probably the most fascinating, either or heading into the postseason, just because, look, I think, the big questions are, will Sosa play against left-handed pitching at second base instead of Stott, which I think he absolutely should. I mean, he's just been way better at it this year. Stott has not hit left-handed pitch. Stott has not hit much at all this season comparatively. The left field, center field thing, Should it be Marsh and Rojas? Should they platoon Hayes? Is Hayes going to make the roster? Should Clemens play? Should Wilson be on the roster? Should Wilson play? It's all these different incantations of it. But I think the Nola Sanchez one is the one that I'm most torn on. I have pretty defined feelings about all the other stuff. Like I just said with Sosa, the Nola Sanchez one, like I think it should be Nola. I think they should stick with Nola in game 2. More than anything, just because I think your second starter has a chance to pitch again more often over the course of the playoffs. The quicker you use him over a 5 or 7 game series, probably not a 5. They'd have to go back to Wheeler. Theoretically, though, if they're down 2-1, do they go Wheeler on short rest and then Nola on regular rest? So I think Nola should pitch game 2, but when you put those numbers in front of me and say Chris Sanchez is 3 runs better at home than on the road and just looks more comfortable and is better at home on the road, like I get it. I think it's a compelling thing. I do think you trust Nola more to go into a road park and still be Aaron Nola. We've seen him have success in the playoffs. We know Nola can always go up and give up some home runs and have a bad day. But for the most part in the playoffs, he's been pretty solid. And I trust him to take the ball in the postseason. But so I'm torn on this one, and I won't, fight strongly against someone who says it should be Sanchez. But I think it should be Nola. I think they should stick to what they've done from a rotation perspective. It's the strength of the team. And ultimately, I want Nola more fresh and more available to pitch again if necessary.
Well, James, I may be the only person that has even mentioned this. I haven't seen it anywhere. I am not in love with Estevez as the closer.
I'm with you, Bill. You're not alone, Bill. You're not alone.
There's not a room in a 3-game series for a blown save. I think I would go Hoffman. I really do.
Oh, I don't even think it's a question. I mean, I think Estevez is their 4th best reliever. I think it's very clearly Hoffman and Strahm at the top. And I absolutely trust Orion Kerkering more than I trust Estevez by a pretty wide margin, actually. So look, I think that it's going to be situational. I think that if, the opposing team's 3, 4, 5 hitters are coming up in the 8th inning, I'm fine with you going to Jeff Hoffman in that spot and then bringing Estevez in for the quote unquote save against the 6, 7, 8 or 7, 8, 9 or whatever that is. Like I get that type of managing and I support that type of managing, but in a basic sense, I do think that we're going to see Estevez in some big spots in this playoffs. And look, I trust Estevez more than I've trusted Greg Kimbrell last year. Yeah. Or some of the guys we've had, like David Robertson a couple years ago. Like I do think Estevez is an upgrade. I think they are, obviously I think Hoffman and Strahm are the best this year, the 2 best relievers we've had over this run. Maybe Sir Anthony in 2022 when he figured it out for the playoffs. Alvarado was great, but I mean, those guys have been amazing. Kerkering's been amazing. So I think they're deeper. So Estevez wouldn't necessarily be the 4th best reliever each year, but this year I think he is. And he's going to get save shots. Like it's just going to happen. There are going to be situations this playoff where Estevez is coming in a big spot. And I worry about the hard contact. I worry that it feels like there's always runners on base with him. So, I get it. Look, I get it. I also like, it's tough to have 6, 7 guys who you trust to, late innings in baseball games. I think the fact that we have 3 guys, and I think the fact that Kerkering has kind of become what Hoffman was last year as this kind of guy you can trust to come in the 6th or the 7th or earlier in a playoff game if you need to and get a strikeout if you need to, get out of a tough inning, get out of a tough spot and really, face the middle of the order or whatever. I mean, I trust Kerkering in that spot and that frees Hoffman up for late games. And I think that's super important. And look, I think Alvarado being effective and, we'll see, he, obviously was better towards the end of the season. That frees Strahm up for bigger spots later in games too. So I think the depth of the bullpen will really help. And I don't think we can freak out because, they almost won the World Series with basically Alvarado and Dominguez as the only guys we trusted in 2022. And they came this close. So we got, 3 dudes I really trust and a couple of guys I feel okay about. I'll take it, even though I'm with you. I don't love that Estevez will be at the back end of some of those games.
James, we all remember what happened in the final 2 NLCS games against the D-backs at CBP last. Why'd you do
that? We were having such a lovely chat.
The Phil's offense, including the core guys in the lineup, went cold. I mean, it's baseball, but What can you do in the hopes of preventing that from happening again?
Again, I mean, it's baseball. So I think it goes back to what we talked about before. I think these guys just really have to focus on their approaches and not get too in their heads, not get too swept up by the moment, not get too, to Bill's point, Homer happy and want to hear the roar at CBP. They got to go up and treat each at bat as its own thing and go up with the right approach and take pitches and be selective and look for pitches in their hot zones and, look for pitches that they can recognize. And, if like, I think you're always going to run into situations with teams in baseball where guys are going to go cold. It's the nature of the sport. It's a sport where, the league average this year is around 240, like average, like all the players put together, it's 240. It used to be 270, like 25 years ago. People just don't hit the ball as much as they used to. It's harder. Pitchers are at a massive, massive advantage with how hard they throw, with the fact that you can bring a guy in the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and all these guys throw 100 and with hooks and they're fresh and there's tunneling and they got 3 different pitches that are coming at you the exact same way. And then one goes that way, one goes that way, one goes that way. And they're all different speeds. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's such an advantage. So in October with the best of the best guys, with them max effort, throwing their hardest in some of these spots, I don't know that it is something that you can totally avoid. I think the only thing you can hope for is that these guys don't, get into what we've seen the last few postseasons and be chasing every pitch and not, really not have a chance up there. So I think you're going to run into guys going cold, but if the whole team keeps their approaches, they have too many good hitters for everyone to go cold at the same time. And that's what's killed them.
Well, James, one final Phillies question for me. And I hate to look back. I won't even mention the game. But over the last 2 years,
I'm sure we're gonna hear a lot of it. It is what it is.
Over the last 2 years, Rob Thompson's handling of the pitching staff in the bullpen has been underwhelming, in my opinion. It worries me as we get into these short series. Can he get this thing done? Can Rob Thompson get this thing done?
So it wasn't just the pitching, because I don't think it was a pitching thing. I actually thought there were some games in the last 2 postseasons, particularly last year, where he had some masterful maneuvering with the bullpen. I mean, that game in Atlanta where, he brought Hoffman in the 3rd inning and he maneuvered his way through a lot of games where, they didn't trust Sanchez. They didn't trust Ranger probably as much as they should have trusted Ranger more. And, I think that's part of it. I think his big issue has been trusting his guys too much and, trusting that Craig Kimbrell can go out and get outs when we all could see that he couldn't, trusting Nick Castellanos to stay in the 4-hole a couple years, trusting Alec Boehm to keep hitting. Like I think that's, trusting Johan Rojas in a big spot last year in Game 7. So I think that I think those have been his issues. I've definitely been concerned about it. I think that he's in a spot this year where the way the team shakes out, I don't think there are any of those Kimbrel-like situations where it's like, please don't go to that guy. You can't go to that guy. We know that guy sucks. As far as the pitching thing goes, like Estevez, even though we're complaining about it, I think we all think, even though he's concerning, we know that Estevez can come in and get outs in a game. Like he's still still comes in and pumps it in at 97, 98, and he's got stuff. So I think it's more, will he pinch hit for Johan Rojas in the 3rd inning of a game? Will he be extra aggressive with Nick Castellanos if all of a sudden, even though Castellanos has been great for, the really the most consistent hitter over the course of the season throughout, after the slow start, but if Castellanos becomes like ice cold guy, he's swinging every pitch out, like if it happens again, will he have the chutzpah to, move him to the 8-hole or do whatever needs to be done in those spots. And look, those spots might not come up. Like maybe the vets hit and maybe it all works out. My concern is more a trust a veteran, trust a guy to get himself out of something when we don't think he can, a la Kimbrel, a la Castellanos, than it is the managing of the bullpen on a inning-to-inning basis. But I do agree that, Topper's managing has to be something we're all kind of keeping an eye on because of those, even though I think they're I think the majority of his decisions are solid. He's had some whopper, taking out Zach Wheeler in Houston. We even talk about that. He's had some whopper bad decisions that have really, really come back to bite them. So, I think I'll be watching it too, but I'm more confident going into this postseason based on the roster more than anything else.
We got to talk Eagles for a few minutes, but before we do
about that, you sure?
5-second answer, James. How far do the Phillies go this fall?
So, I'll get into trouble if I say that they're going to win the World Series, but here's what I'll say. They should win the World Series. I think that they are the team that is most evenly talented, most well put together. I think that I think they have the best combination of starting pitching and bullpen other than San Diego in the playoffs. I think those are, honestly, I think San Diego is the team that scares me the most. I know more people are probably scared of the Dodgers. San Diego's, they got pitching for days, man. They got bullpen guys. They just roll them out. They're all nasty. Dylan Cease is nasty. Joe Musgrove's nasty. We've seen Yu Darvish be awesome in the playoffs. I know he's old, but he's got stuff still. So the Padres scare me a little bit, but I think this team, I think they have a better offense than the Padres when guys are hitting. They've got more big time players and again, this team has produced in big moments before. We've seen these guys have big moments on the biggest of stages. We know they can do it, even if it hasn't ended well the last 2 years. So I think they're the best equipped team to win it this year. I just, after the last 2 years when I was sure, especially last year, I mean, when they won 10-0, I was like, this team is winning the World Series. I don't care what anyone says to me. You cannot convince me that this team is not going to go win the World Series. And when they were up 2-1 in the World Series against the Astros, that 7-0 game, the homer barrage end, I'm like, no one in the world will I'm going to be on a parade in Broad Street in a week. This is amazing. That's how I felt in the core of my soul. And so I can't go there, but I think that they should be considered the favorite heading in the playoffs. I think they're the most well-built, the most ready, and it does feel like it's their time, for whatever that's worth. I know that wasn't 5 seconds.
I think you went over 5 seconds. Yeah, just a bit.
I don't do the 5. I mean, I can't do 5 seconds.
Right,
it's not in my repertoire.
I know. We always mention, as we switch to football, how much we admire your energy and your passion, and you've exhibited so much of that already with us tonight. You also did so on Monday morning on the WIP Morning Show, talking about the Eagles' horrible performance down in Tampa and the Birds head coach. Listen to this, folks.
Showed up with no effort, no life, in a spot where the last time you were there, you lost 32-9 in one of the most embarrassing playoff performances we've ever seen from a Philadelphia sports team. And you can't get your team ready to go down there and play those guys again? You come in and give us that? You're down 14-0 like that? Embarrassing. And Kellen Moore had a bad game, but you know what? Nick's the head coach. A disastrous performance.
So how do you feel about the Eagles, James?
Yeah. Well, and that's in a segment we call the Bad to the Bone Award, which is the Bad to the Bone Award when they win. It's just the Bad Award when they lose. And we go around the room, and Richie got to go first, and he took Hurts. I probably would have taken Hurts. As mad as I was about Sirianni, I thought Jalen was even worse in that game. So So here's the thing with the Eagles. I try and be rational about it because, it's hard. And I think that, we can't help, but to the point you made about the Arizona team that shall not be named and what they did last season that shall not be named again, that was already named once. It's hard to not think about last season with the Eagles too. It's hard to not, as we watch what's happening now with, all these players kind of, popping off on social media and the Darius Slay, talking about CJ. Darius Slay going on a freaking Cowboys podcast in the season and then, ripping his teammate in a way. And then, he's a captain. This guy's a freaking captain. Devin White retweeting, positive things about the Bucks. It just all feels like, oh my God, we're there. We're back last year. So it's impossible not to think about. And then you watch Jalen and he's making the same freaking mistakes. He's still turning the ball over, stupid turnovers, dumb decisions. He's still standing in the pocket forever, just tapping the ball. Man, grip it and rip it a little bit. Get the ball out, throw the ball. And I think that this is a problem with all these guys. And I'm so frustrated. It's so funny because, and a lot of people have said this. People are trying to, calm people who are upset down, and they're right. if you said, all right, they're going to lose AJ Brown for 3 games, they're going to lose Devontae Smith for a game, Lane Johnson for a game, blah, 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 blah. Like they got to go to Brazil to start. What do you think their record will be at before you? I'd be like, all right, 2-2. That's fair. Yeah, that seems fair. Good. Sure. But it's the way they've gotten to 2-2, especially after this Tampa loss, that has been so concerning. And I do generally overall believe that it's really hard to know what a team is in the NFL a month into the season. Ever since they changed all the rules with preseason and with how much you can practice and how much you can hit and all stuff, it is what it is. Like coaches talk about it. We all know, like, these teams play themselves into shape. They play themselves into who they're going to be. So I don't think this Eagles team that we see right now is necessarily what it is for the rest of the season. And they absolutely have a lot of talent. Like they should on talent alone be a playoff-ish team. It just feels, and then with Jalen this week, again, going back to the weird answers with Nick, that we have our moments thing, like it just feels like there's something broken there. Like it feels like that they shouldn't have brought Sirianni back, that this relationship is just clearly broken past the point of like being able to fix it. Elliot, my co-host on Go Birds, Elliot Shore Parks, had a good analogy. He's like if people in a relationship like broke up and then they're like trying to get back together and they're like, no, this will work. We're going to make this work. It'll be fine. It's like, no, like the relationship's broken. You broke up. It's done. Like that's what it kind of feels like with all this stuff coming up and the issues. And like, as soon as the losing starts happening, I mean, they're 2-1, they lose a game, they get whooped. And it's like, oh, pop. I'm going to talk off. No, let me defend myself on Twitter. Let me talk smack. Let me do this. Let me not have my coaches back again. Like it just feels too similar to last year. So I definitely think they can get it together. I think getting these players back who are superstars again, they are missing 3 of their 4 best offensive players or whatever last game. So like, I can't indict them, but I'm certainly, I was bullish on this team coming into the season. I thought the coordinators would make a big difference. I liked a lot of the offseason moves. So far, 4 games into the season, I definitely feel worse about the team than I did prior to the season starting.
Well, James, Jeff McClain put out a little tweet that I made a copy of. The Eagles blitzed, or Tampa Bay blitzed on 26 of 37 dropbacks for 70% of the time. He completed 12 of 20 for 100 yards and a touchdown with no interceptions, sacked 5 times, fumbled once. So my question, I guess, is, you don't have Smith. You don't have Brown. You can't stand back there if they're blitzing you 26 times and expect to push the ball downfield. You have to game plan differently. Get the ball out. Get it. You got to learn to trust Jahan Dotson. If you got a problem, you got to figure it out. You got to come up with other ways to do it. Second point of that, Vic Fangio, I thought the defense was pitiful. And it was the same thing as last year. Sean Desai, a disciple of Vic Fangio, they ran the same thing. The Bucs ran the same thing. As Tom Brady said, if you're going to sit in zone, I'm just going to run around and throw the ball in the pockets. They made it easy.
Yeah, so on the Kellen Moore thing, I totally agree. I thought it was an insane game plan. Like, I certainly run the football. I mean, give the ball to Saquon. What are you doing? Like, he should touch the ball 80% of the plays on offense. I mean, I don't know what you come in without AJ and Devontae. I don't understand it at all. But also, like, yeah, you would think like the game plan that Tampa Bay had is the game plan the Eagles should add. Like I said, grip it and rip it. Quick plays, get the ball out. I don't know if Jalen could do that. I don't know if he wants to do it or if he can do it. Have we ever seen Jalen just kind of stand there and go boom, 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 like Baker Mayfield did, where it's like the ball's out in 2.5 seconds? Like, we've never seen that. Jalen's holding the ball longer than anyone in the NFL. It's like insane how long he's holding. It's like, I can't remember what the number is, but he's leading the NFL in terms of holding the ball in the pocket. So I just don't know that that's an option for Kellen and the offensive staff to be able to call that kind of game plan, especially without AJ and Devontae in there. So I was super disappointed with the way they called the game. I think it'll be better with AJ and Devontae there, but the offense looked like last year. The Vic thing, like, I'm a little torn on it. I get your point, and I don't love some of this stuff, but at the same time, man, like, when Bryce Huff and Nolan Smith are getting blown up, every play. I mean, we had Shokapati on today, and he's like, they're getting blown up by tight ends. Like, tight ends are blowing those guys up. He's like, I don't know what Vic's supposed to do in that spot. Like, I get it, but you can't just blitz just to blitz. Like, you can't just do things just to do things. Like, the off coverage, apparently that's a cornerback choice too. Like, those Vic talked about, like, those corners could have played more press. They didn't feel comfortable with the situation they were in. Like, maybe he should force them to play more press coverage. That's fine. I get that. But I mean, especially after last week against the Saints, I think, and certainly, people who really know what they're talking about were like, Vic Fangio won this game. Like, Vic Fangio's game plan coming in with the 6-man front against this Saints stretch scheme, he was like, brilliant. It's like, this was brilliant. This was like, the guy won the game. And I don't think he has a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, when you look at it, like, I mean, they have a horrendous defensive line through, other than one game where Jalen Carter played well. I mean, show some freaking effort. It's like, you could clearly do it when you want to. The defensive line, it was hot. The defensive line was horrible. You've got below average linebackers, below average safeties. Good. I think Quinyon Mitchell is going to be a stud. I think he is, but he's also a rookie cornerback. I mean, Slay, it looks like he's regressing. I mean, he's got bad players out there. I don't blame Fangio nearly as much as I blame the personnel on defense. I'm not saying Fangio has been great or anything, but I do think that, when you've got, like, you give $51 million to Bryce Huff and he can't get to the core, he can't even get off a block. Like, you can't get Nolan Smith, the first round draft pick, can't get off a block. Those are your ends. And look, if you want to rip Vic Fangio for saying he's probably involved in the person, like choosing the personnel, not Smith, and that Nolan Smith happened before, but I'm sure they went to Vic and said, do you want Bryce Huff? Do you want this? I'm sure, he could take a role in that. But in terms of, like, on the field scheme wise, I don't think it's a Vic Fangio problem as much as it's a defensive personnel problem.
I heard on WIP this afternoon, Brian Baldinger say that it's obvious to him that Fangio and the players just aren't on the same page. He added that it was just a horrible effort on Sunday by the D. And he said a lot of the players look like they are not in shape. So there's that. James, I know it's your bedtime, so we got to let you go.
Yes,
but
it is.
I mentioned earlier how I love when you go into a rant mode on the radio. But WIP is terrestrial radio, and you have to watch your language on there, my friend. Mm-hmm. You apparently forgot that last spring when you were reacting to all those
yes.
New York Knicks fans taking over the Wells Fargo Center.
Yes, I did.
During the playoffs. And yes, I have that WIP audio.
Elliot said Josh Harris
terrific.
should buy up all the freaking tickets and give them to Sixers fans. Like, you're damn right he should. The freaking, $7 billion this guy's worth? Yeah, dude. Like, own your... Oh, my goodness. Own your franchise, okay?
Yeah.
Thank
There
you.
go.
Thank you. Yep.
Thanks, James.
Sometimes it just comes out,
It's something, James, and everything you say can and will be used against you.
Yeah, hey, Josh Harris, I said what I said. There you go.
There you
You're
go.
right.
Yeah.
Well, James, we have run out of time already, man. We're going to, as always, great talking to you. Let's do it again. And, man, we need to make a good Red October.
Oh, buddy, I'm with you guys. We, like, more than anything, especially with the way this Eagles thing looks like it's going, Phillies need to lift this town up. No pressure on the Phils.
You're the best, James.
We appreciate it, guys. I appreciate it, guys. Anytime. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, James.
See you guys.
Take care, man.
All right, Chet. We're still going to give a shout out to all the shows at the Edge Philly Sports Network this week. There's a few less of them, but the gang still has all the bases covered. You can catch all the action on www.eopsports.com, as well as Edge of Philly Sports on YouTube. You can also find our show on the Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel. Help us out by hitting those subscribe, follow, and like buttons. And as always, share with your family and friends. Hey, Chad, football season is in full swing. What's going on over at the Irish Rover Station House?
The Irish Rover, Bill, well, let me tell you, the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, Pennsylvania has happy hour specials, always 24 beers on tap, and Thursday through Sunday dinner specials, plus Killer Burger Thursdays. Oh, live music is back at the Irish Rover on Saturday nights. This Saturday, it's Brian Lesnick providing the tunes. You know also that it is Red October. We've been talking about that. So you can catch all of the Phillies games there at the Rover. They have a whole bunch of TVs. while enjoying some beer specials at the same time, of course. And I just learned that the Irish Rovers Halloween party is slated this year for Saturday, November 2nd. Get your costumes ready. More on that in the coming weeks. The Irish Rovers Station House is located on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Check the website, irishroverstationhouse.com. Ray, it's Ray.
Hi, this is Ray Dinger, and it is always fun to talk sports with these two guys, Bill and Chad, on Philly Pressbox Radio.
Well, hey, Chet, before we talk Sixers, we had some deaths this week. Hate to talk about that, but they certainly hit home. Hit King Pete Rose and Sixers Dikembe Mutombo both passed away yesterday. And then we learned that the great actor John Amos also passed away.
Man, what a week. Not only John Amos, Maggie Smith, Chris Christopherson, a couple of other guys as well. Plus, the news of Dikembe Mutombo and Pete Rose. Dikembe Mutombo, of course, such a big factor in the Sixers getting to the NBA Finals back in 2001 after they acquired him, trading away Theo Ratliff. And by all accounts, just a great human being as well. Joel Embiid looked up to this guy. We remember him, blocking shots and, giving the no finger to his opponent. So rest in peace, Dikembe Mutombo. And Pete Rose, Bill, give me something on Pete Rose. You were a huge fan, I know.
There's an interview. Pete holds a million records in baseball still. But he interview, and he said that the record that he was the most proud of, and people don't even talk about this, is how many games he was on the field that won. He won the most games by far of anybody that's ever played. And that was the record he was most proud of. He played hard every day. And one other thing, Chad, if on social media, if you look at it, have you seen how many people have their picture with Pete Rose? Everybody had an opportunity, took a picture with Pete Rose. He was that kind of ball player.
Never did. Believe it, I love the pictures. Never got to meet Pete. I know you met him a few times, so you're lucky. Yeah,
well, great player. We don't win a 1980 World Series without Peter Edward Rose. That's for sure.
He was at a memorabilia show just on Sunday, the day before he died. This is one of the final pictures he took that day with a couple of his old Reds teammates, Ken Griffey Sr., Tony Perez, Dave Concepcion, George Foster. That was a day before he died of, I guess, an apparent heart attack. So, man, Pete Rose, 83.
Yeah, he was in Nashville. He was in Nashville for the weekend. On Sunday, he passed at his home in Las Vegas on Monday. So the guy who is his, I'll call him his agent, his autograph agent, whatever, I know very well. And, man, it sure hit them guys hard. He had them in Nashville and has them everywhere. So it's a shame.
And if you haven't seen it yet, the show you recommended to me a couple of months ago, Bill, on HBO and Max, Charlie Hustle and the Matter of Pete Rose. It's a great docuseries. I watched the first episode when you told me about it 2 months ago, and then I forgot about it. And then when the news of Pete's passing came, I rewatched episode 1, and I also watched episodes 2 and 3 yesterday. I still have to watch episode 4, but yeah, be sure to check that out. It's Charlie Hustle and the Matter of Pete Rose. It's on HBO and Max, so definitely.
Yeah, and they're less than an hour. They're like 50 to 52, 54 minutes each.
You can watch the whole thing in 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it's you get excited watching the baseball stuff, and then you see all the background stuff, and it really makes you sad. It's a shame. The baseball stuff and many of the moments we already we lived through were exciting to watch.
Absolutely, Bill.
All right, Chet, the Sixers held their annual media day the other day. What are your takeaways? Seems like a lot of energy coming out of the club.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't there. I didn't make it down there for the event at the training complex in Canada, but I did watch the great majority of it on YouTube as it happened. And yeah, it was encouraging seeing and hearing how excited the players and Daryl Morey and Coach Nick Nurse are about the new season and all the new faces. Some young guys, some older veterans. It's going to be fun to watch this season play out, I think. So after watching the media day pressers, well, Bill, I slapped together this little package. So I say to you, Bill, get excited. After yet another earlier than hoped for playoff exit last spring, the Philadelphia 76ers totally revamped their roster, with a couple of big exceptions, of course, stars Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Well, a plethora of moves have been made since last June, most notably the free agent signing of 9-time All-Star Paul George and forward Caleb Martin, too, plus the decisions to bring back Kelly Oubre Jr., veteran guard Kyle Lowry, and former backup center Andre Drummond. He's back in the fold. On Monday, those players and others, plus Coach Nick Nurse, met with reporters at Sixers Media Day before flying to the Bahamas for training camp. To a man, they expressed excitement about the outlook for the 24-25 season, but cautioned there will likely be some growing pains early on.
We have a lot of new guys, so got to get everybody on the same page. And it's going to take time. There might be growing pains, but I think we got guys that just fit on and off the court, and that's what you need.
It's a lot of fresh faces. Got to learn the different offenses. Got to learn each other. Got to learn what each other like, where each other likes the ball, what combinations work, what combinations don't work. So once we figure all that out, I think it'll be great. But I mean, we have the right coach, the right support system, the right coaching staff that's going to go out there every single night and try to win games, but still try to get the camaraderie right and step in the right direction come postseason time.
After playing on a 1-year deal last season, Kelly Oubre Jr. this summer agreed to a 2-year contract to return to the Sixers, and he's pretty excited about it.
Long story short, I'm very hungry, starving to get more and to continue to just get back to where I know I was at before last summer happened. And then, so I got to go out and show. The words can't really do it justice, but yeah, you'll see a lot of fire this season.
As noted, the 76ers' big move over the offseason was inking free agent Paul George to a 4-year, $212 million deal. The veteran wing, who, with Embiid and Maxey, will give the team a legit big three, is confident the Sixers will be a true title contender.
You think of Joel being one of the best, if not the best big in the NBA, Tyrese being one of the young stars, up and coming. You have leadership. You have guys that have been in meaningful games, meaningful playoff runs. It's a well-balanced group. I think we'll be really good. I will be hopeful that we're one of the best teams in the NBA, top 3 in the East for sure. I think we should be able to compete for a championship.
Head coach Nick Nurse is pretty happy to have PG8 in the fold and looks forward to watching him team with Embiid and Maxey.
I mean, we know what we have on the outsides with Joel at the 5 and Tyrese at the 1, and now again we just think Paul's a really good fit in there, and I think he's one of those guys that can do so many things that I would imagine it's going to be a pretty big menu of things we do with him, just to have used his talents. Right, his talents are he can score in a variety of ways. He can run pick and roll. He can run offense a little bit. But I'm just excited to see it and see how it looks next to those two guys, yeah.
Of course, as is the case every year, the chance that the Sixers will make a deep playoff run will depend to a very large extent on the health of Embiid. The big guy knows that and says avoiding injury next spring will be a priority.
There's no agenda. There's no all-star. There's no, all-NBA. There's none of that. It's whatever it takes to get to that stage and be healthy, because I believe, with the guys that we have and, with what I can bring to the table, I have a pretty good chance.
Don't minimize the return after a 2.5-year absence of Embiid's backup. At Media Day, Andre Drummond not only declared himself the best rebounder to ever play the game, he said he knows he'll have an important role this season with the Sixers.
I've always had that chip on my shoulder. I still believe to this day I'm a starter in this league. And that's the mentality that I walk on the court with, regardless if I play 15 or I'm starting. So with that mentality, I'm good. You're going to get the best out of me each and every night. Just an honor to be here and put this Philadelphia jersey on.
After training this week in the Bahamas, the Sixers will return to the Philly South Jersey area for more practice. They open the preseason then on October 11th against the T-Wolves in Minnesota, with the regular season opener set for Wednesday, October 23rd at the Wells Fargo Center against the Doc Rivers-coached Milwaukee Bucks. Going to be a fun season, we hope.
All right. We'll see. I hope
Are you
so.
excited, Bill? Did that get you pumped up?
No, it didn't. And you know why it didn't?
Why is that?
We think we're going to be okay. We think we're going to be better. It's going to take time. But no, we're going to be doggone good.
I'm not sure that I believe Joel when he says it's not about, all NBA, all pro, all-star game. Yeah, he still wants that. But it is encouraging to see that he's lost 25 to 30 pounds, he says. He looked great. Looks like he's in good shape. Hopefully that'll continue not only through the start of the season, but particularly through next April, May, and June.
Yeah, I kind of like the roster moves. I want to see those guys on the court. You're not winning the championship in October 1st anyway. So I want to see that. But, I would have felt like I wanted to see a little more confidence coming out of that bunch right now.
It all begins for real 3 weeks from tonight, Bill, October 23rd.
Yeah. All right, Chet, we're going to talk. Well, let's go ahead and move along before we do this. Let's get to Bob Cavanaugh and the best tailgaters in Philadelphia, Cavs Philly Tailgates.
Yeah, why not? Cavs Philly Tailgates has been cooking up a terrific catering business for more than 30 years now. You know them for their tailgate parties. Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs also does corporate events and parties, you name it. Now, what's coming up? Well, a lot of home games, and that means a lot of Cavs-hosted tailgates before those games at the Link. There's the partial schedule right there. The next one before the October 13th Eagles-Browns game at the Link. Check the website, phillytailgates.com, for pricing and more info about upcoming events. And if you have any questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. Bill, what are we doing next?
Well, we were going to talk Flyers for a few minutes, but we're going to talk about that next week. So we're going to skip over that since we went a little longer with James. I will just say this, Chet. Mitchkov is off to a flying start. He's played 4 preseason games, so he hasn't gotten a lot of shifts in. He's got 7 points in 4 games, 3 goals, 4 assists for those people not watching. He's not playing every game, obviously not playing as many shifts, but the kid looks like he's the real deal.
He really does. And I'm kind of getting excited about it. I can't wait to watch. And we're going to have our Flyers season preview show next week. More about that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that's why we'll let that go. We'll talk more about that. Yep. Let's get to our weekly picks. First, lay out the margin of victory and how that works for anybody that's just joining us for the first time.
Yeah, just like a survivor pool or suicide pool, as they used to call it, you pick one team each week that you are sure will win, and you can't reuse that team again over the course of the season. But unlike a survivor pool, you're not eliminated if your team of the week loses. Another difference, if your weekly pick is correct, you get points for that correct pick, the points being the margin by which they defeated their opponent. I'll show the standings in a bit, but let me say this, Bill. It's a good thing that we're not killed off if you make the wrong pick, because all 3 of us would be out already, 3 or 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah, go figure. It's been that kind of season to get going, that's for sure. We'll get back to the margin of victory picks a little bit. We don't have Boop with us live tonight, Bob Patron Jr., but we do have his picks, I believe. So let's get to it. Did you print it?
Again, I forgot to print out the damn picks from Boop. God darn it.
Well, I'll run through them.
Run through the games while I find the picks.
All right. We added a couple games this week since the Eagles are off, so we've got 5 total. We added the Thursday night game. The Bucks at the Falcons should be a good game. Falcons -1.5. And Bills at Texans. Bills are -1. That should be a good one. Cleveland is at Washington. The Commanders -3.5. The Giants at the Seahawks. The Seahawks -6. Dallas is at Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. Steelers -2.5. Interesting there.
All right.
So if you're ready, let's do it. Let's get back up to Bucks at Falcons.
I found Boop's email, and Boop says this will be Atlanta's 4th home game already this season. Wow, that is odd. 4 home games out of 5. Boop is picking the Falcons to win that one. After watching the Bucks on Sunday, Bill, I'm taking the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bucks. I'm going to tell you what, Chet, one comment about the Eagles game. and the Bucks. So many people said, I can't believe they did that. Baker Mayfield did this. Baker Mayfield did that. Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback. He was good all last year. He was certainly good on Sunday. He needs to get better due than he's been given right now, and he's going to get it on Thursday night when they beat Atlanta.
Yeah, he was certainly better than Jalen Hurts on Sunday. I'll tell you that.
Bills at Texans. Bills -1.
Boop sent that as a follow-up, and I don't remember exactly what his wording was, but I know he picked the Bills coming off that rough Sunday night loss. So he's taking the Bills. I wrote down the Bills also, but that's really a toss-up. What do you got, Bill?
I'm taking the Texans at home just because they're at home. C.J. Stroud playing good ball. I'm taking the Texans at home. Cleveland and Washington. How about those first-place Commanders? They're 3.5-point favorite.
Dan, they may be for real. Boop says Deshaun Watson had more incompletions in Cleveland's first game, 21, than Washington's Jaden Daniels has had all this season, 19. How about that? Boop is picking the Washington Commanders, and boy, I am too. Who would have thought this, 4 weeks ago before the season began, that Washington would be a 3.5-point favorite over Cleveland?
Yeah, I told you at the beginning in our preview, I thought Washington was really going to be a lot better. I didn't think they would be this much better. Jaden Daniels playing out of his mind right now, and Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator calling the plays there. Yeah. And he's been around the block, and he's coached some great quarterbacks along the way, and he's got Jaden Daniels going. I'm going Washington. Giants at Seattle. Seahawks are -6 in this.
The Boopster says New York's passing yardage has increased every game this season. 166, 175, 228, 277. That does not influence his pick, apparently. He's taking the Seahawks. So am I. You got to go Seattle.
Yeah, got to go Seattle there. Dallas at Pittsburgh. Sunday Night Football, -2.5. If this was Staubach against Terry Bradshaw or something like that, it might have a little more oomph to the game, but it's still Dallas and Pittsburgh.
This is another one. Who would have thought before the season that the Steelers would be favored by 2.5 over the Cowboys? Man, Steelers are playing quite well. Boop says 7 of the NFL's 10 1970s seasons ended with at least one of these teams in the Super Bowl. How about that? The Cowboys and Steelers. Seems appropriate. They play the week Pete Rose died. Do you understand the logic there?
No.
I guess because Pete was, the big baseball player in the 70s or one of them. I don't know. I can't get into Boop's mind.
Maybe he wants to put a bet on the game. I don't know.
I can't get into Boop's mind. Yeah. Boop is picking the Steelers. So am I. Pittsburgh. Go Steelers.
Yeah, I'm going Pittsburgh too. Now they lost last week to Indianapolis. It got off to a pretty slow start. But Fields is playing pretty well at quarterback, and the Dallas defense is not good.
Bill, before I forget, let's put out the pick'em standings for the week. We are not exactly lighting the world on fire. Boop is 7-6 after last week. You, after going 3-2, are 6-7. I am at an all-time worst 3-10 4 weeks into the season. Bill, that is hard to do. Pick 10 out of 13 games wrong, even up, but I've done it.
Oh, well, there's a long way to go. Let's say you got a long way to go. All right, let's get back to our margin of victory standings. You feel any better about them?
Not really. Somehow I'm still in first place because of the pointage. The pointage, is that a word? Because I picked the Chargers, as did you in week 2. We both got 23 points for that one win. And out of 4 weeks, I have 29 points. You have 28. We're both 2-2. Boop is 3-1, a better record, 1 loss, but he only has 14 points. All his 3 wins were narrow margin. So, boy, this is still anybody's game. Unlike last year when, I don't know if I mentioned this before, I won it last year. All right, who we got? Let's see. Boop says, margin of victory, Seahawks. I have the Seahawks also. Seattle will beat those New York Football Giants. Don't tell me you're taking the Seahawks, Bill. Is that what it said? I can't read it. Just tell me.
Seahawks over Giants.
All right. All 3 for Seattle. So there you go. Everybody bet large on Seattle this week. We got this one.
Oh, my God. It chased everybody away if us 3 picked Seattle.
I know. I know.
This will be a perfect reason for the Giants to win. Wait and see. All right. We all good with that? Tell us. Great guest tonight is James Seltzer. Who's coming to Philly Press Box Radio next week?
I forgot to put his graphic in here, but I can tell you who it is. Next Wednesday, Bill, it'll be a day or two shy of the Flyers dropping the puck on a suddenly highly anticipated season, thanks largely to that young Russian phenom we mentioned, Matvei Michkov. Well, in addition to Phillies, NLDS talk, and Eagles talk, we will be doing our Flyers season preview show with Sam Carchidi, longtime Flyers beat reporter. Sam is always great, and we can't wait to get his take on what he expects from the Flyers this season. We might have a second guest also, Bill. That is not quite confirmed as yet, but if we do, I'll let you know. So Sam Carchidi for sure next week.
Yeah, one comment, and I can't wait to talk to Sam about this. I just saw a thing this afternoon where John Tortorella says some of these guys just aren't getting it, making me think that the roster could turn out very interesting as we're closing in on the season. Roster spots are going to be tough to come by. A ton of young kids in this organization and a few veterans. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, going to be interesting for sure. That's definite. Hey, Bill, a couple of quick things before we depart. I didn't get to watch it because I was down in Ocean City, Maryland Saturday night, seeing a bunch of great bands at a music festival. But I know you were glued to the TV for a pretty classic football game, Bama and Georgia. Tell me about it.
Well, what a game. What a game. Bama came out, just ran Georgia right out of the stadium, except they played two halves. And Alabama came back in the second half. Georgia came back in the second half, actually took the lead on a long pass. The very first play, Georgia threw a long pass back the other way.
I didn't even know they took the lead. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And Alabama came back on the first play and threw like an 80, 78-yard, whatever, touchdown play. And then Georgia got the ball back with a chance to get down the field to tie or win, and threw an interception to end the game. It was a true college football big boy classic. There was big boy football being played.
Yeah, I thought of you as I was checking the scores, and I said, I know Bill's enjoying this. I saw your posts on Facebook.
Well, and a lot of people turned it off and went on to other games because Alabama was just they actually played, I would say, a perfect first quarter. It was 28-0. They had 21 points in the first 6 minutes.
Hey, I posted this right here from the STT Sports Network. Two great guys right here. They're talking about us. STT Sports Network, the home of Phil Steifel, by the way. Phil Steifel moving to this network, and we're going to support Phil. Phil's going to support us. We're going to get Phil back on the show before too long because he's great, trending in the AM. He does a great job with that every day. So be sure to follow Phil wherever he ends up. And we're going to talk more about what's happening next week with the Edge of Philly Sports Network because there's some things going on there. One other thing, Bill, Penn State hosting UCLA at Beaver Stadium this week. Boy, they haven't played each other in a long time. Penn State, heavy favorite here. What do you think?
Penn State will win this game. UCLA is not very good at this point, so it should be a good win for the Nittany Lions, especially at home. One thing, if we can squeeze this in, we don't have a lot of time.
Denny Malloy says Hurts still stinks. He hates Hurts so much.
I was looking at the schedule, and I'm going to do this off my head. I actually had a message on it. They went to Hawaii to open. Then they came home. Then they went to LSU. Then they came home. They played home games. Then they're going to Penn State. Then they're coming back to California. Then they're going to Rutgers. Then they're going to Nebraska.
Wow.
How can college kids, how can you practice, go to school, do the things you're supposed to do, coach them up, and you're traveling all over the place? And they may all be like that. I just happen to look at that because they were coming to Penn State.
Yeah, that is crazy. That's what you get when you have all these conferences, moving all over the country. And it is what it is, Bill. Wrap it up. Let's go.
Do it. Let's thank tonight's special guest, James Seltzer, our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs, Phillies, Tailgates, PPCC, 118 Raz Room. For Jim Chet Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday, October 9th at 7 p.m. You see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel, or on the Edge of Philly Sports Network. Listen on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans. Let's go Phillies. Go Birds.
High hopes.